Down.
Hey, AEW family. It's your team here at Dynamite Download. We were working together to put together a lot of content for our Join Dark Order January and the end of the year awards. And then we, like all of you, were blindsided by the loss of the Exalted One. Brodie Lee has made a massive impact in a very short period of time in AEW. And over the last few days, since news of his passing has come out, we've recognized that he's made a massive impact in the lives of countless people in his shortened life. We've talked about it a lot recently. Bonds, you had mentioned in the last week's show, actually, when MJF kind of acknowledged Santana and his loss of his father. But nothing quite stings when someone's life is cut short. Brodie was really entering his prime in a lot of ways. Was being showcased and featured in a way that really so much of his hard work and sacrifice over the course of his life was paying off. For me, I'll just start really quickly. I'll say, for those of you who have been watching Dynamite Download, you know that from day one, I was a skeptic on the Dark Order, and I had concerns and questions about where that group was going. But week after week, Brodie and the family of Dark Order, they all work together to create something magical. Their sense of humor, their ability to play off of each other felt like they were genuinely enjoying what they were doing. And so often we associate with work something that we have to push through, but these guys, their work was their love and their passion, and it came through. You could tell that they had fun together. Their dynamic together as a team was really special. And so through what Brodie was able to do, and I think that they've really at this point built something special in the Dark Order, and I'm praying that going forward, for the sake of all those people in the group, that they're able to see what they've accomplished together, how special it is, and that going forward, really the new focus is on honoring the Exalted One and what he had done for them, adding legitimacy, adding a strength to the group. Brodie really has a presence that few people do, and
his legacy will go on and on and on, and we're gonna see this. And coming up on this week's Dynamite, how they're gonna do a tribute, and I think they're gonna do a tribute right. And obviously, it goes without saying, like, this is a really shocking and sad moment for anybody, not just the wrestling community. To see someone lose, a family lose their father, their husband, their dad, it's tough. And it's even harder because nowadays and age, you get to follow these people like outside of their character, listening to podcasts and listening to people's struggles and their growths and, their ups and downs and how hard they've worked for something. And it's very sad. And, constantly scrolling through the internet, you just see all these stories of how good of a person he was. Like, it's a bummer. Yeah.
Worse. It's terrible.
Yeah. I think his, he was really, like you said, really hitting his stride, and clearly he was going to be a future world champion. And we all knew that. And, his in-ring ability was showing week in and week out. And we were really, hoping to see him sooner than later. No one knew, this was like the biggest kept secret, as it should be. It's your personal life. And it's a real surprise to this. And, it's obviously very hard to talk about in many ways, but just this month we're going to do the Join Dark Order January, and it's going to be not only recruitment month, but it's also going to be an appreciation month. He really put them on the map in terms of making them a credible group. And he was 41 years old, which is still pretty young in the wrestling business. I mean, look at Jericho, what he's doing, and he was still not hitting his peak. And we know if he would keep pushing, he would have been a champ. He would have, taken the Dark Order to a completely another level, and BTE to a completely another level. I mean, that was just the outpouring and the stories that we hear. I mean, from the FTR guys, some of the stories that, really personal ones that they've never shared, and people like Jon Moxley who are not really known to be vocal to really outpour. It's just a unanimous how good of a person he was, and unanimously how great of a father and family man and company man essentially he was. So that's what's even tougher. When I first saw the news break, I kept thinking like, okay, this is a work, this is a joke, this has got to be a joke, this is a joke. It's so surprising, and clearly it wasn't. What I loved about following him joining AEW was getting the behind the scenes, his Talk is Jericho, his podcasts, and just hearing him, break character and just and shine in the ring. We did our favorite wrestlers and stuff like that. We were doing some, sidebar things, and Brodie was like my first round pick, if you know what I mean, recently, with who I was rooting for and wanting to be on my team. So it was for a reason. The intensity he showed and his scary look in his eyes. I mean, he had many characters, following him in WWE with the Wyatt family debut. And you're like, who is this guy? Who is this beast? Just the look in his eyes could tell a story, when he would open his eyes, really the beard, the stained shirt, and he was just a force to be reckoned with. And his run in WWE was one that was fun to follow. Some kind of questionable bookings, but when the Bludgeon Brothers, his tag team, and the Wyatt family, those are definitely some career accolades that he has a lot to be proud of and to be left behind for sure.
Yeah, Brodie,
definitely.
I know that your fandom really dates back to his time in WWE. I loved having an opportunity to kind of go back and it's sad that this is, oftentimes what ends up happening is it takes the loss of somebody for us to stop and appreciate all that they did. And you go back and watch some of the matches that we take for granted in the moment. We sit back and we're a bunch of critics and we say they shouldn't be doing this move, or they did this too much. You go back and you watch some of Brodie's battles with the Shield. I know that that feud featured some guys that you really were rooting for from an organic standpoint since you were a kid. Tyler Black, Seth, you have a bunch of guys in that group that really have now become staples in the wrestling industry. Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins, Dean Jon Moxley, Roman Reigns. Where would we SPD, we talk a lot about the building of a core, and really that Wyatt family and Shield feud was building a core for the wrestling industry that we had no idea how much we needed.
Oh wow, yeah.
And Brodie was every bit the star that any of those guys were. I mean, we got to see really his opportunity to break away. He was always one of those people who, you heard rumblings that he was underappreciated or underutilized, and we didn't get to see, why that was the case until he got to AEW, really. But his potential, his in-ring work in WWE had so many people wanting more. Bonds, take us back on memory lane a little bit. Help us just remember, what he did before he got to AEW that made him so exciting when he debuted as the Exalted One.
Oh man, there is so much to talk about when it comes to when Jon and Brodie was Luke Harper back in WWE, and some of the matches he had with the Shield. And, obviously he had a feud with Randy Orton where he was Intercontinental Champion, and there was other stuff that happened as well in his career. And, he's been part of some awesome, awesome feuds. And it's such a shame that that we're talking about this today, because we were all looking forward to 2021 with Brodie, and you can just look back at his past and see how great he was in the ring, how great he was on the mic when he got to AEW, and how he was underutilized to a point. But regardless of him being underutilized, he always put it in the ring. He was always fantastic in the ring. He was great. And personally, I thought he was the most talented part of the Wyatt family in a lot of ways. He was great. And
yeah, I mean, we look at, like, you're right. I mean, we look at, the crew that came out of there, Bonds, and the Wyatt family has been controversial at times, but it has produced a lot of great stars in this business. And I think that Brodie's intensity, like you talk about SPD, there are some people who they can emote more. All they need to do is you can look at them in the face and they don't need to say anything.
Eyes say it all, man. His eyes tell quite the story.
Brodie did such a great job of, sort of cultivating this image or this persona of this wild man. He had that far away, like, crazy look in his eyes, the beard. There was something about him that made you intimidated or scared by his mere presence. And when you pull back that curtain, now that he's passed, and for us as fans to be able to see that his presence was bigger in the locker room than we could have ever imagined. The man behind those faraway eyes, those crazy eyes, was a loving, genuine husband and father. And for us as guys, young men, the world is a crazy place, and we have temptations left and right that will challenge us to go off of our path. And from what you hear you hear from so many in the industry, that this was a man who didn't get deterred. He had core values in his heart that weren't gonna shake. And I loved, you mentioned Jon Moxley talking about their past, and I mean, it dates back to when Moxley was a kid at CZW. I mean, just a kid. But he always kind of wondered Brodie was never going to become a big star because he just didn't care about, whining and dining in the big parties. He just wanted to go home to his wife and kids. And that's a really beautiful thing. It's hard not to respect and admire somebody like that.
Absolutely.
I think that there's countless examples of people who are coming together and really honoring the life of Brodie. This upcoming week, they're rewriting Dynamite, which was a jam-packed show that had a lot of promise. I mean, we were talking about a world title defense, Kenny Omega versus Phoenix. And I think that when we look at one of the reasons why I love AEW so much is that this team feels like a family.
Absolutely.
The recognition that, the show must go on is one thing, but to stop and to recognize that there's more to life than entertainment. There's more to this man's legacy than what he did in the ring. I think giving an opportunity for the talent to come together and honor Brodie is something that we're all going to need. I think it's going to be Wednesday's episode is going to be a healing moment for a lot of people to come together and lean on each other and recognize that it's a big loss. It's a big loss when you see someone's life get cut short like that. There's only so many words that you can put to it. Life can be tragic that way. And that's why it's so important that we support each other. There's so many people who are so focused on tearing each other down. And I think that if we can go into the 2021 with the recognition, Brodie was a man who was chasing his dreams and trying to provide for the family that he loved. And I think at the end of the day, that's what all of us are trying to do in this life. We're trying to figure it out and we're trying to provide for the people we love. So try to be a little kinder to each other and recognize that you never know when it's your day. That's certainly something that I'm taking away from this experience. I mean, Brodie, 41 years old, was phenomenal athlete, put all of us to shame. And
that's for sure.
for that to happen, it's a wake up call.
Yeah, and it's really like I mentioned, it's just like the uproar of support and online and everything, and how AEW is a family, and a lot of people, a lot of the AEW Nation are really promoting. They should start every Dynamite. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. The way how he's doing it off of his social media. And different things I've been seeing online. Tony Khan right here just showing like the family leading by example. How we'll celebrate the life of Mr. Brodie Lee with the show, including tributes and special card of matches dedicated to the Exalted One. Really a true class act by the Khan family and AEW. And I've been seeing different things on Twitter, and I know you signed a petition. They could do a annual Brodie Lee TNT championship tournament. I think they're going to do something like that. They're not rush it necessarily. They'll do it right. And his legacy will hopefully, and I know will live on, both in and out of the ring. I can see the Dark Order really kind of turning into this really like hot team. Not that they are already not. I think they are, with just that they're doing it for Brodie, and using it as motivation to work harder. I'm using it as motivation as kind of like their messiah in a way. So it's a very tough situation, and one unexpected, and so many people that were affected by. And I think AEW is going to do it right. And
yeah,
that it's just just scrolling through some of these photos and stories, it's tough, man.
Tough. I think SPD, and thanks for continuing to show all these touching pictures. I think that I can say with confidence, as somebody who works under the Khan family umbrella on a different avenue, right? I can say that the Khan family, they do value family. They do recognize, yes, business pushes us to focusing on profits and being shrewd sometimes and making tough decisions, but they consistently value the human beings behind what makes the product, and I think that AEW is a great example of them trying to empower other people to be themselves and to chase their dreams. And I do agree with you on this one, SPD, that the Dark Order is this. They're at a point in their in their journey where we all face that at some point, where we face a crushing loss, something that really makes us feel empty inside. And you get that moment or that period where you just want to shut down. Preston Vance talked about that at length. The guy is always in the gym and always wanting to get jacked. And he talked about how he had no motivation to want to get out of bed. But he reminded, like, the memory of Brodie always, messing with him and giving him a hard time about getting his pre-show workout in, has inspired him to continue to push himself to be better. Right. And I think that part of the grieving process for us as humans is you're going to feel that loss that really sucks your soul out of you, makes you feel empty inside. But after you process that hurt and that emptiness, the greatest way to honor the impact that person had on your life is to not let it to defeat you, but to live that next day with that much more gratitude, that much more desire to want to squeeze as much juice as you can out of life for them. I do think I'm with you, SPD. I think that the Dark Order is going to, once they get through this together, once they get through this loss, I think that they're going to come out the other side with a renewed purpose and a renewed energy. And I think that the groundswell of support, the family, the AEW family, is 100% behind them. We want to see them succeed. All the more reason why now.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to be there behind them and supporting them and believing in them.
Yeah, it's tough to talk about, and it's, really lost for words, and he will be truly missed, I'm sure, by all his close family and friends and the wrestling community. And moving forward, we're just going to do our best to, keep the Exalted One in our minds and celebrate what he's done in AEW and his career.
Yep.
I think it's clear from everybody's posts on social media that anybody who knew Brodie was better for it. And I think that's going to be remembered. That's going to be part of his legacy, that he was such a good person in that locker room. And people that knew him for 6 months had all the respect in the world for him. And I think that that's going to show on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I hope it does, because I think it's going to be truly a great thing for his legacy. And because there's so much outcry, just, oh man, so many people loved Brodie in that locker room, and people in WWE and AEW and everybody that worked with him, you haven't seen a bad word about the guy. And
no, you haven't.
That tells you all you need to know about him, and that's just a great thing.
Yeah, and I think wrapping this up, Bonds, I think if we could take anything away from that, like, don't we all want? I think we all can only wish that our legacy when we die is as positive and
true,
well remembered as Brodie is. And I know that Brodie had so much more life ahead of him and has a family at home that I know he wishes that he could go home to every night. But for us, we don't know how many days we have on this earth, but if we can live each day and carve out a legacy that is half as strong as what Brodie's is, and then we did okay. Like, try to going forward, try to live a life that you're pursuing your dreams, that you're encouraging other people to pursue their dreams, that you are kind to people when they're struggling. Bailey, I follow Bailey. Bailey talked about how she can't count the amount of times that Brodie helped talk her off of the ledge. The disappointment that she had, or the setbacks that we face in life. Having somebody like that be that person, and nobody's perfect, but challenge yourself daily to try to be that person to those that you interact with in your own way. Try to build that and craft a legacy where people, when you go, they look back on your life and they appreciate how you encourage them, how you were positive, how you wanted the best for other people. Try to be that way. And to me, Brodie has he casts a long shadow for what he did in the ring, but beyond the matches that we saw, the character work that we've been able to see over the years, it's the legacy of the man that is going to linger in the hearts of so many people that he
for sure. Yeah. And, like, we're seeing screenshots and stuff, be that person to reach out, be a good person. And that just, he resembled that. It seemed like in so many ways, we didn't know him personally, but just hearing the countless positive stories is just do the right thing, be a good person, love each other. And that's all I could say to that. And I just want to, salute to Brodie and the Exalted One. We will miss you. It's tough.
I think that we're all kind of at a loss for words. We've done what we can to get this out there for the AEW family. We're going through the grieving process right there with you, and I think we don't mean to preach to anybody here, but the best thing that we can do when we experience loss like this is to use that moment to help hold up a mirror to our own life and to assess, what we want that legacy to be. And you cannot change how many days you have, but you certainly can change how you use those days. So try to continue to be the difference. And like you said, I mean, I'm a big FTR fan, and I had no idea what Dax had gone through with his family and his story about how Brodie and his wife were there for him when he went through one of the most gut-wrenching losses that any couple could go through. Try to have that kind of character, guys.
Yeah.
try to hold yourself to that level where, you know, you reach out to somebody who's struggling. You try to be a leader in that regard. You know, Brodie is the leader of the Dark Order, but it certainly seemed like he was a leader in the locker room. He was somebody that people could go to kind of be the stabilizing force, you know, make them laugh when they're feeling down, give them good perspective. So we do look forward to the new year. We're grateful that we're able to experience this incredible company and the incredible camaraderie that all of you guys have. I mean, really, without this company, we wouldn't have so many great friendships that we've built along the way. So going forward into 2021, guys, don't let this be one of those moments that you forget as a wrestling fan. You know, just as wrestling fans, we experience untimely deaths far too often. It's sad that that's something that has plagued this industry. But this is one of those that I have a feeling hits all of us in a. I don't know if it's the culture, the climate that we're in right now with COVID, or like you talked about, SPD, just the groundswell of the direction that the Dark Order was going in. It felt. I mean, we were planning this join the Dark Order thing because we felt like this group was so organic, what they were able to build, and they were just hitting the cusp of their potential and where they were going to go. You know, I think that, you know, when every time we see something like that get cut short, it's hard, but
it is very hard.
We got to keep our heads up as a you know, fan base and as people, and, you know, try to push ourselves into the new year with that, holding that into our hearts.